Hi guys, and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. Now today we're going to be doing this really beautiful rustic woodland effect, but I have used the sugar sheet cake trend of 2020. It's easy to do, but just look at that beautiful sparkle. It just adds something that little bit different that you may have never seen before. Now these are perfect for wedding cakes or even celebration cakes. Just imagine this with a little fairy door on, or if it was a wedding cake, just imagine when it's actually in the room with all those beautiful lights. I guide you through everything step by step as always, and I think we should make a start on this one. You're going to love it. Here I am using a leveler. Start by leveling off one of your cakes. This wants to be about 4.5 centimeters deep. Now, taking the buttercream, I simply place them directly on top of the cake first. This is just to prevent all of the jam from soaking into my Victoria's sponge. I must also point out I will leave links to both the recipe for the cake I am using and also the buttercream just in the description below this video. Once I have done this, you then want to create a well. Simply pipe along the outside of your cake and then fill the centre with jam. You want your filling to be roughly 1 centimetres deep, no more. Once you have filled this with jam, simply pipe buttercream on top and then place this in the fridge just to allow all of the buttercream to set lovely and hard before we add the second layer of cake. I level off the final piece of cake to 5 centimetres. This is so that the overall cake ends up on average 10.5 centimetres deep. Using the leftover buttercream, simply crumb coat the whole of the cake. Crumb coating is just a process where you cover the cake with buttercream in order to allow the fondant, or in our case the sugar sheet, to actually stick to it. But it also protects your cake from the air as well as adding some flavour. Simply cover all of the cake and then place this directly back into the fridge. Whilst the cake is in the fridge, we're going to start decorating our cake drum. So here I have a star nozzle and I've covered a 12-inch round cake drum with green fondant. Simply push the end of the star nozzle directly into the soft fondant and it will give you a beautiful grass effect. You will have noticed that I did mark out where the cake was going to go. I've only used a cake tin in order to do this, and that's just so you don't waste time covering all of this cake drum with this effect. Just go around where the actual cake will be. And when completed, this is the overall effect you will aim to achieve. Very, very simple to do. It can be quite time consuming, but it's really effective and just helps bring your cakes to life. I then add the cake to the decorated cake drum. Now this has just come out of the fridge, so even though it's only covered in buttercream, I'm physically able to pick the cake up and place it directly on there without causing damage. We need to decorate the top first, so roll out a thin piece of fondant, brown, place this directly on top, smooth out and cut off any excess. All we need to do now is add a few indentations for the detailing, and I also use a cocktail stick as well. Once you have done this with the simple rings, we then just use an edible dusting powder just to give it a little bit more colour. So I'm not actually turning this into paint. As you can see, I'm just placing some on the kitchen roll first. This is just so I don't accidentally add too much directly to the cake. And then where I've placed those indentations, I just go over them with this edible powder, and it just makes the cake come to life. And it adds so much more detail, but it's so easy to do. Now we need to make the sugar sheets. You will need 180 grams of caster sugar and add this to a clear bag. This is in order to colour it. Now, for this cake, in total, you will need to make 2 batches of this sugar sheet recipe. I then add some rainbow dust, food gel, brown food colouring, and simply colour this in the bag. Now, because it is a relatively dark colour, it will take just a little bit longer, but it's very easy to do. You've seen it on previous tutorials with other colours, and just keep rubbing the bag until it's all well incorporated and the sugar is brown. Simply add the coloured sugar back to the mixing bowl, and now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of liquid glucose. Now, this has been placed in a Pyrex jug with some very, very hot water in there, and it just allows you to use the liquid glucose much, much easier. Add this to the bowl. I then start to mix it manually using a spoon, and I finally get my hands in there and just really knead it until it's all incorporated. In order to create the really realistic bark effect, I'm using the Karen Davis Rustic Woodland Bark Mould. It's very, very, very detailed and so easy to use. Just take a look here. Look at all that detail that comes. Now remember, you can use this with fondant if you want to, but I'm going to show you how to use this with the sugar sheet cake trend of 2020. Start by placing a heart shape in the centre of your mould, and then around this you want to take the sugar sheet recipe that we have just made and simply push this with your fingers into the mould. Just pretend it's fondant. It is very sticky, but this is doable. I've done it in loads of tutorials with many different moulds. Simply cover all of this mould apart from the centre where your heart is. As soon as it is all filled, remove the heart from the centre and place this directly in the oven for 10 minutes at 50 degrees centigrade. Once it has been taken out of the oven, just allow it to cool for a few minutes before you turn it upside down. Now, if it's been baked for long enough and if you've allowed it to cool enough, it will come away from this mould very, very easily, as you can see here. You then want to place this directly on to your buttercreamed cake. Remember, the buttercream will act like a natural glue, and repeat this process but without the heart missing from the centre. Now, when you repeat the process, you will need another full sheet and about 6 centimetres worth of one of the sheets. I'm going to speed it all up so that you can see all of the sheets being added directly to this cake and just how easy it really is. Time to make the few finishing touches. So for the heart, just take a small amount of the same coloured brown fondant that you used for the top of the cake. Roll this out and cut out a heart shape. I then chose to emboss mine using Sweet Stamp by Amy Cakes. But if you don't have any of these sets, you could just use a cocktail stick. I simply added an arrow shape and embossed it directly into the heart with the cocktail stick before then applying this directly to the cake. Now remember, the cake's covered in buttercream where the heart's actually going to go, so that acts like a natural glue for you when you do add it to the cake. I then brush over this using the same edible tint that I used on the top. I just go around the sides and where the arrow is. For the initials on this actual cake, I just paint them with a very fine brush using a brown edible paint. Now this part is not essential because it looks stunning anyway, but I just wanted to add a little bit more colour. So using an airbrush, I just airbrush parts of the actual sugar sheet with a dark brown edible food colouring. Now, because the sugar sheet's already quite dark anyway, it does take, you really do have to look to notice the different colour contrast. I just wanted to add that little bit extra. But there you have it. It really is as simple as that. Now, can you imagine this as a 3-tiered, 4-tiered, 5-tiered, however big you want it, wedding cake? Or maybe you're making something magical with a little fairy door and lots of woodland animals. It's perfect for so many different celebrations, but I've just added that extra sparkle, that extra vavavoom, and just made it that little bit different. I really do hope I've helped you all again today. I hope you're all keeping safe and well during these difficult times. And I will be back soon with an awful lot more new, completely free content. Happy baking, guys.